I'm not really sure what I was thinking when I moved out here. After my older brother passed away last year, I inherited the house he'd just bought. A big, oddly designed place on the outskirts of a pine-covered valley in northern Colorado. I hadn't even known he was looking for property out here. We weren't close toward the end, but when the lawyer called, something in me didn't hesitate. I took some time off work, packed what I could fit into my truck, and drove out to a place I'd never even seen in person. It's a weird house. Bigger than it looks on the outside. 3 stories, long hallways that go nowhere. Rooms that feel like they were added on as an afterthought. My brother had barely lived in it. 2 months, maybe. The furniture was sparse, and his bedroom looked like a hotel room someone stayed in for a night and never returned to. It didn't feel like him at all. The town, Brook Hollow, is small. Barely a gas station and a diner. People are polite, but I don't really ask questions, and I haven't told them much. Just that I'm here for a while. Just that I'm settling affairs. Whatever that means. The house itself sits at the end of a long gravel road, backed up against a ridge of dark trees that always look like they're hiding something. There's no real yard, just a stretch of brittle grass, rocks, and old pine needles that never seem to clear. The wind up here never stops moving. Inside, there's one section of the house I don't use. The north wing. 2 narrow rooms past a warped door near the kitchen. The hinges squeal when you open it, and the floorboards back there bow and creak, like they're trying to fold in on themselves. My brother had it shut off from the heating system. I figured maybe he was planning to renovate. I haven't touched it. I mostly stay upstairs, work from my laptop, watch old movies, read. But a few nights ago, just as I was dozing off, I heard something knock. 3 slow, heavy taps, like someone rapping on wood with their knuckles. I stayed still, trying to place it. It came again the next night, then the next, and always 3 knocks, always from the north wing. By the 5th night, I was no longer pretending it was nothing. The knocks had changed. They weren't just quiet thuds anymore. They sounded closer, more confident, like someone was knocking not to be heard, but to be acknowledged. The first time I tried to ignore it, I kept the lights off and pulled my blanket up like I was a kid again. The second time, I got up and walked to the landing. Nothing. But when I stepped onto the top stair, I noticed the sound wasn't echoing from the other side of the house anymore. It was coming from below me, somewhere beneath the kitchen. The next morning, I searched the crawlspace access in the laundry room. Nothing. No footprints, no scuffs. Just old boxes of winter gear and a thin line of frost hugging the far wall. I even tapped a few boards myself, trying to recreate the noise. Couldn't match it. My brother hadn't left any notes, no manuals, no logs, just a torn envelope with a 4-digit code scrawled in pen. No safe, no keypad, just a number, and no explanation. That night, I didn't wait for the knock. I turned off all the lights and sat on the first floor couch facing the kitchen. I wanted to hear it directly. No distractions, no second guessing. It took longer than usual, almost 2 a.m., before the sound came again. Knock, knock, knock. This time I could tell exactly where it came from. The north wing. I stood up slowly and moved to the door I never opened. It was even more warped than I remembered, like the wood had swelled or the frame had shifted. The handle felt sticky with cold. I turned it anyway. The hallway inside was pitch black, the kind of black that doesn't feel empty. It feels filled. I turned on the flashlight app on my phone and stepped forward. The first room was bare, just stained floorboards and an old broom leaning in the corner. I swept the light across the walls. Nothing unusual, but then I heard it again. Not knocking this time. Shuffling from the second room. Something, or someone, was already in there. I backed out of the hallway, heart thumping so hard I thought it would echo off the walls. I closed the door gently. Then I shoved the heaviest chair I could find in front of it. That was the moment I finally admitted, this wasn't my house anymore. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the living room with every light on, heart racing at every creak, every groan of the old wood. Morning couldn't come fast enough. When it did, I called the local sheriff's office. I told them I thought someone had broken into the north side of the house, that I might have heard movement behind a sealed door. They were skeptical at first, asked if I'd seen any signs of forced entry, if I lived alone, if I'd been drinking. I kept my answers short. I didn't care what they thought. I just needed someone else to be in that house with me. 2 officers arrived by midday. They were both older guys, familiar with the area, calm but curious. One walked the perimeter while the other followed me to the door leading to the north wing. The chair I'd used to block it was still there, unmoved. I opened it slowly. We went in together. The first room hadn't changed, still empty, still cold. But in the second room, something was different now. There was a hole, low on the wall, about the size of a basketball with splintered wood around the edges. Below it, piles of drywall dust and wood shavings. The officers exchanged glances. One crouched beside it and looked in with a flashlight. Looks like someone's been trying to dig into the wall, but from this side. What's behind that wall? I asked. Nothing, the other said, scanning the floor with his light. That should lead into the crawl space, but this doesn't look right. They told me to wait upstairs while they searched the lower part of the house and checked under the floors. When they came back, one of them held an old, rusted lockbox, dented along one side like someone had beaten it with a heavy tool. It had been wedged into the crawl space, behind the wall where the hole was cut. It was empty. The officer who found it looked at me strangely. You didn't know this was here? No. Never seen it before. My brother never mentioned anything. Well, someone was looking for it, and they were pretty determined. They caught the man later that week. He'd been hiding out in abandoned cabins in the woods past the ridge. Not a transient. Not some drifter. He was a contractor who used to live nearby. Had keys to properties all over the county. No record. Clean clothes. Ordinary. But what they found in his backpack made my stomach turn. He had tools. A flashlight. My brother's name written on a folded scrap of paper. And the same 4-digit code I'd found in that envelope. They said this kind of thing happens. People breaking into rural homes looking for old safes. Sometimes they get lucky. Sometimes they don't. But here's the thing. I still can't shake. The box was empty. But it wasn't broken open. Which means it had already been unlocked. I don't know who opened it. I don't know when. But last night, I heard it again. Not knocking. Something moving inside the walls. And this time, I don't think it's looking for the box anymore. I was 17 when it happened. Early November in a quiet Oregon suburb. My parents had planned a weekend trip to Seattle for their anniversary. It wasn't their first getaway without me, but this time, I wasn't going to some relative's house. I had convinced them I was old enough to stay alone. just for 3 nights. They were hesitant at first, but I played the mature card hard, and they gave in. Friday morning, they were gone before I even left for school. By the time I got back home that afternoon, the house already felt different, quieter, emptier. I walked into the silence, kicked off my shoes, and grinned. No curfews, no lights out, no passive-aggressive comments about screen time. Just me, a stocked fridge, and my PS5. I heated up some frozen taquitos, grabbed a Mountain Dew, and camped out in the living room. I had barely touched the controller when my phone lit up with messages. My friends were already online, ready for a long night of multiplayer madness. I threw on my headset and joined the party chat. Everything felt perfect. Hours passed. We joked, played, yelled. The time didn't matter. By 10:30 p.m., one by one, my friends dropped off. Parents calling, siblings needing the TV, weekend chores. I was the last man standing, with nothing but the dull buzz of the TV and the occasional click of the controller. I stayed glued to the screen, still riding the high of being home alone. But that's when something changed. Just past 11 p.m., in the middle of a match, a bright flash hit the corner of my eye. I turned and saw the neighbor's motion light flick on. I live on Glenview Lane, a small cul-de-sac where nothing ever happens. The houses are spaced out with trees and hedges between them. The McClearys live 2 houses down. That light of theirs only kicks on when someone, or something, moves right by their garage. I paused the game, stood up, and stepped closer to the window. A person stood just under the glow of the motion light. At least, I think it was a person. The light flickered slightly, and the figure didn't move. They were facing the house, shoulders stiff, like they were waiting for something. Then the light blinked off. Gone. I blinked hard, leaned in, but there was nothing there anymore. Just shadows and the cold blue of night. I waited a few seconds, shrugged it off as some random passerby or a deer setting off the light. I tried not to let it rattle me. I went back to the couch and pressed unpause. But something about that stillness outside, it lingered. I'd almost forgotten about the figure by the time midnight rolled around. My headset was off now, music playing softly through the TV as I mindlessly wandered through a solo game. The house was dark, lit only by the screen and a small lamp by the couch. I was getting tired, but I didn't want to go upstairs just yet. Something about the downstairs felt safer. Closer to the door, maybe. Then I heard it. 3 soft knocks. Knock, knock, knock. I froze. My first thought was that it must have been the front door, maybe a neighbor. But then it came again. Only this time I could tell it wasn't coming from the front. It was coming from the side door. We have a narrow side entrance that leads into the laundry room. Nobody uses it. Friends and deliveries always come to the front. I muted the TV and sat completely still, my ears strained in the silence. Another knock, this time louder. 3 again, evenly spaced, deliberate. My heart rate kicked up. I tiptoed toward the hallway, careful not to let my feet thump against the hardwood. I didn't want whoever was out there to know I was moving around. I passed by the kitchen, crouched low, and peeked around the corner toward the side door. The blinds were down, but I could see a vague outline through the frosted glass window. Someone was standing there, not moving, just waiting. I backed up, barely breathing. I thought about calling the police right then, but part of me still wanted to believe this was a mistake. Some lost traveler, a confused neighbor, But it was almost 12:30 in the morning. Who knocks on a side door at that hour? And then it stopped. No more knocks. I waited. Minutes passed. I was about to exhale when I heard something that made my blood run cold. Breathing. Soft. Raspy. Close. I couldn't see through the blinds, but I could hear someone exhaling near the window by the kitchen now. Less than 10 feet from where I stood. My hand trembled as I reached to grab my phone from the counter. The backyard motion lights flicked on, then off again, then on, like someone was moving slowly, back and forth. My phone buzzed. A random spam call. I silenced it immediately, terrified the sound might give me away. I crept through the house, checking all the doors and windows. Locked. At least I had done that right earlier. I turned off every light and crouched low, trying to stay out of sight from any window. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe they were gone now. And then I heard it. Footsteps on the gravel driveway. Slow. Crunching. Getting closer. They passed the living room windows. Then silence. A metallic clinking sound came from the back of the house. They were trying the lock. I didn't wait this time. I darted upstairs, nearly tripping over myself as I climbed in the dark. I slammed my bedroom door shut and locked it, my hands shaking as I fumbled with the phone. I called 911 and tried to sound calm, but my voice cracked halfway through the first sentence. The dispatcher kept me on the line, asking me to stay quiet and keep the line open. Officers were already being sent out, but the nearest patrol was about 10 minutes away. 10 minutes. I crawled into my closet, closed the door, and sat down on a pile of laundry. I whispered every word to the dispatcher, heart hammering against my ribs. The house below me groaned with silence, until it didn't. The back door creaked open. I froze. I heard footsteps. Slow. Careful. Whoever it was, they were inside now. They weren't talking. They weren't calling out, just moving, methodically. I heard something being dragged, maybe a duffel bag or a crate, across the tile, cabinet doors opening and closing, furniture being moved. They were searching for something, or taking whatever they could carry. My breath caught as the footsteps grew louder, circling through the dining room, then the hallway. The intruder wasn't rushing. It was like they knew they had time, like they knew no one was supposed to be here. Then came the stairs. One step at a time. Slow. Deliberate. I pressed the phone tight to my ear, trying not to make a sound. My closet suddenly felt too small. Too exposed. I could hear the dispatcher saying something, but her voice felt like it was underwater now. The footsteps stopped outside my parents' bedroom. I heard the door open, rummaging, then silence. The door clicked shut, and the footsteps moved again, to my room. The doorknob rattled gently, not forced, not pounded, just tested. And then, nothing. A pause, and then the sound of retreating footsteps. Down the stairs. Out the door. I didn't move for what felt like an eternity. Then I heard it. The distant wail of a siren. Police lights flashed outside my window a minute later. 2 officers swept the house. One of them knocked on my door, calling my name. I finally crawled out and met them, still shaking, barely able to explain what happened. They walked me through the house. Drawers dumped, electronics gone. Back door cracked where it had been forced open. One officer took notes while the other asked if anyone else was staying with me. I told them no. I was completely alone. He looked at me strangely. Then why'd he skip your room? I stared at him. What do you mean? The guy went through everything else, opened every door, even the basement. But yours just tested the handle and walked away. He paused, like he already knew someone was in there. I didn't know what to say, just stood there in the foyer while they packed up, leaving me with a case number, an empty house, and a mind racing with questions. Later that night, after I'd finally worked up the courage to leave my room, I wandered back upstairs to grab some clothes from the closet, and I stopped cold. Right outside the closet door, barely visible on the carpet, were faint, wet footprints. Muddy, barefoot. They hadn't stopped at my bedroom door. They had been standing right outside the closet, listening. I live in a quiet part of upstate New York. Not deep in the woods or anything. Just one of those rural neighborhoods where the nearest neighbor is a few hundred feet away, behind tall fences and thick trees. It's peaceful, which is exactly what I wanted when I left the city 2 years ago. I work remotely as a graphic designer, and I spend most days inside with music playing softly in the background, and coffee always within reach. It was a chilly Thursday in late October, the kind where the sky stays gray and the wind whistles through the cracks in the old windows. I was behind on a client project and trying not to procrastinate, but around 2:45 p.m., I got distracted by the sound of my doorbell. It startled me. I almost never get visitors out here, especially unannounced. I muted the music and walked to the front door, pausing before I peeked out the peephole. No one. I opened the door slightly, looked around. Nothing. Not a car on the road, not a person walking by. Just the wind blowing through the bare trees. I was halfway back to my desk when I heard it. A loud, metallic rattle. The side gate. My house is fenced all around, but there's a wooden gate near the back that creaks when opened. I walked to the side window and pulled back the curtain just an inch. There was a man standing at the gate. He looked like he was in his 40s. Pale skin, short brown hair, dark jacket zipped up to his neck. His hands were in his pockets, and he had a strange smile. Polite, but off somehow. He noticed me in the window and gave a small wave. I cracked the window slightly. "Can I help you?" "Hi there," he said calmly. "I'm looking for Kevin Rourke. I have something important to talk to him about." That's my name. I've never seen this guy before in my life. "Depends on what it's about," I replied. He hesitated. "I'd rather discuss it inside. It's personal." My stomach tightened. "Not happening," I said, and started to slide the window shut. "Please leave." He didn't protest. He just turned and walked away, out of view. I went out front again to check the street. Still no cars. The guy had vanished without a sound. The rest of the day, I tried to focus. I convinced myself he was just some weirdo, maybe got the wrong house. But a weird feeling settled in the back of my mind. I kept glancing out windows, checking the locks twice. It felt like the air around the house had shifted, like something was watching. By 10:30 that night, I was winding down. I had a mug of tea in hand and the TV was playing quietly in the living room. That's when I heard the noise. A soft tapping. Not from the front, but from the back sliding door that led to my deck. I froze. My house sits at the edge of a patch of dense woods. There's no reason for anyone to be back there. I crept into the hallway and turned off the lights so the inside was dark. From the corner of the living room, I peeked through the side of the curtain. My breath caught in my throat. The same man was standing on the deck, facing the glass, He wore a hood now, pulled low over his face. The porch light flickered just enough for me to make out his gloves and the shape of his face under the shadow. He wasn't knocking this time, just resting his fingers gently on the glass, like he was waiting. I backed away slowly and reached for my phone. Before I could dial, he spoke, clear as day, through the glass. "Kevin, I really need to come in. It's not safe for you. Please." I didn't answer. I noticed something then, a glint of metal tucked inside his coat, maybe the handle of a knife or a piece of pipe. My heart started racing. I ducked into the guest bedroom and called 911. The dispatcher stayed on the line as I whispered everything. She told me units were being sent, but my location was a bit remote. They'd need a few minutes. Then came the sound I'll never forget. Glass shattering. Not from the back door, but from the kitchen window. He was inside. I dropped the phone and grabbed a lamp for defense. My ears were ringing. I backed into the closet and stayed quiet, barely breathing. The sound of slow, deliberate footsteps echoed through the house. I huddled in the closet, every creak of the floorboards sounding like a gunshot. The dispatcher's voice was muffled on speaker, repeating my name, asking if I was okay. I couldn't speak. I was too afraid he'd hear me. The footsteps moved from room to room. He was looking for me, and he was taking his time. Once, I swear, I heard him whisper my name. Then, out of nowhere, sirens, far off at first, then getting louder. The footsteps stopped. Everything went still. I cracked the closet door open. Silence. I stepped out carefully, gripping the lamp. I crept to the hallway and down to the stairs, stopping when I saw the kitchen. The back door was wide open. A cold breeze rushed in, carrying dead leaves across the floor. And just as I reached the top of the stairs, I saw him, running across the backyard into the tree line. He was fast, hunched low, disappearing into the shadows just seconds before 2 patrol cars pulled up. I ran out to meet the officers, barely able to explain what happened. They searched the house. The window over the sink had been shattered with a rock. The back door lock was bent, pried open with some kind of tool. Then one of the officers called me into the kitchen. "Did you leave this here?" he asked, pointing to the counter. There was a folded piece of paper. It hadn't been there before. I picked it up with shaking hands. The handwriting was rough, almost frantic. "He's coming for you." I tried to stop it. That was all it said. They searched the woods but didn't find anyone. No fingerprints, no ID, nothing. It's been 2 weeks. I've installed cameras, changed the locks, and added motion lights. I haven't seen the man again, but sometimes, late at night, I still hear faint tapping at the glass. And every time the wind howls through the trees, I remember his words. "It's not safe for you," and I wonder if he meant me harm, or if he was trying to warn me.
If these stories sent a chill down your spine, go ahead and tap that like button and subscribe for more eerie tales. What would you do if you were caught in one of these unsettling situations? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd really love to hear what's on your mind. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next nightmare.